camera on it. Everything we're doing tonight is so that it's live streamed, but also so Michael can use this footage. So it means so much to us if you have questions, if you can come up to the mic. If you're not capable to stand and get it, raise your hand. I'll come up to the mic as questions get asked later.
Ted, I forgot to figure out how to turn my PowerPoint on. Okay, somebody else got it. So what I want you guys to do is imagine tonight you go home to bed, and when you wake up in the morning, you find yourself in this car. To your right and to your left, you see cornfields. It kind of looks familiar, doesn't it? Does anybody recognize where this is, by the way? Any ideas? I would call it Nebraska, right? I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea. I just wondered if I took a picture of somebody's farm. But you wake up and you're in the car. You look to your right and you see your spouse. You look in the rearview mirror and you see your family. And the car's not moving, okay? You're excited. You can feel the excitement in the car because your family's excited. You hear them chattering. Somebody says, let's go. Where are you going? Any ideas? Anywhere. So the possibilities are endless, right? Is there some anxiety in that statement? Where are we going? Like you got the whole family in the car. You're feeling excited, but you don't know where you're going. You don't even see really any landmarks. It looks like every other cornfield in the state of Nebraska, right? Maybe out west with the hills in the back. How crazy is it to get in a car in the middle of a road with cornfields and no landmarks around and say, let's go? What do you need? What's missing? This isn't a trick. Destination, directions, what else? A plan. Isn't that so true? So what are you going to reach for? You're going to try to find your phone? Well, you don't have your phone. You hit the button on the dash, there's no GPS. How crazy is it to say, I'm going to get in a car with my family in the middle of nowhere with no road marks, or landmarks, and try to go somewhere? You can go anywhere, right? The possibilities are endless. I like that optimism from whoever said that. But for most of us, it creates this anxiety and this stress. I want to go somewhere, but I don't know where I'm going. The clicker did work at the beginning. I tested it. And now it's not going to work. So, sort of a rhetorical question, but is it better to travel with a map? Do you guys enjoy traveling? Raise your hand if you enjoy traveling more with a map. Why do you like the map? What is it about the map that gives you comfort? You know where you're going? Yep. What else? I'm sorry? Gives you options. You can see the whole picture, right? You can kind of figure out, which route do I want to take? You can pick the fastest route, right? How many times on your GPS do you click that button? Give me there right now, right? And you can see where the cops are if you have Waze, right? I love that app. Thanks to Phil, wherever Phil's at. So if you're thinking about real estate as part of your journey, how many of you guys in here already own real estate? The vast majority of you guys from what I saw earlier. Anybody that's aspiring to be a real estate investor that doesn't quite yet? That's great. You're in the right room. Ted, I know you own real estate. You can't raise your hand for that. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So if real estate is part of your journey, my encouragement for you guys tonight is to find a map. Find somebody that's already doing it and find a way to copy what they do. One of my favorite quotes from a gentleman called Zig Ziglar, who's died several years ago, is, if you want to be successful, do what successful people do, right? So define your success and copy what they do. The 3 steps I heard you guys all say when I said, what do you do with the map? Number 1 is you're going to choose your destination, right? What good is the map if you don't decide where you want to go? I've got this map and atlas of the world. You can study, you can see all the options, but if you don't pick a spot, what value is the map? The second is going to be to choose your vehicle. If it's real estate, we'll pick your asset type. Then the third is chart your course. What's the fastest route, right? What's the most scenic route? You get to decide. You're the architect, so you can have some fun with it. So for those of you that do not know me, I see a lot of friendly faces in the room, so thanks for all my friends and 12 family members that came, all the new faces. My name is Michael Kramer. I'm married. I've got 4 children. I've got 4 grandchildren. They're not all in that picture. My daughter, Mary Ellen Holden, not the one strapped on. She just had a baby girl. So I got 3 grandsons and a granddaughter, which is pretty cool. My beautiful wife, Lucy, and business partners here. She really runs the business. Real estate for me is a new journey, you guys. I have bought and sold 7 businesses over the last 20 years, but I didn't buy my first investment property until 2019. Today, I have 400 cash flowing rentals, mostly in the Omaha-Lincoln area, that are owned with my family, no outside money. And we've got another approximately 1,000 units that are owned with investors. So my background is really in building businesses. That's really my expertise, and it's what I love doing. And I took that experience over those years, the patterns that I saw, and applied it to real estate. And that's how I scaled the business as quickly as I did and as effectively as I have, because I saw these patterns and I repeated them in the real estate business. Where a lot of you folks, and I don't need to see your hand, but I'm guessing some of you folks in the room will say, well, I want to get into real estate, but I don't really know what my destination is. I don't really know what the path is that I want to take. And I want to hopefully help you guys come up with a framework, borrow the one I've used, and apply it to your business so you can scale if you choose to, okay? Some of you are probably thinking, do I even want to scale my business, right? I know a lot of folks who say, I'd rather have a lifestyle business. I want to get to a certain size and I want to have the ultimate freedom. Nothing wrong with that. I have 0 issues with any of that. If you want to get to 4 properties and take some of the pressure off of your W-2 or add some extra income, that's great. I have 0 issue with that. For me, I'm an all or nothing guy. And so I just heard this from Matt Rule in one of his last pressers. He said, only take advice from people you trade places with, and only accept criticism from those you take advice from. Anybody ever heard that before? I love that advice. So if I share this stuff with you guys tonight and you don't like it, that's okay. There's another map out there. So this isn't a do what Mike does talk. This is a find a map talk. I don't care whose map you follow, but I want you to have one so that you guys can pursue your dreams. I happen to be an all-in guy. So for the rest of our talk, these are the things I want to go over. We're going to start with some of this stuff is familiar. You guys have seen it. The reason it's up here again is as a reminder. Many of you guys will have already got your why figured out. Some of you don't. That's where I would suggest you start. We're going to then talk about choosing your vehicle, a 9-part framework, the 23 questions, which was the title of my talk, right? I'm going to give you the questions you ask on how you scale your business. I'm going to introduce you to somebody called John Smith. I'm going to introduce you to somebody else that I call Eric. And we're going to talk at the end about our unfair advantage. So without further ado, let's dig into this. Have you guys read, show of hands, Start With Why? So several of you in the room have not read Start With Why. The important part of starting with why is in the real estate journey, is it fair to say, let me change that. In the journey of entrepreneurship, which includes real estate, is it fair to say that it's not straight up and to the right? Has anybody had an experience that's straight up and to the right? No bumps, no challenges? Raise your hand if you've had your share of challenges along the way. Okay, every hand is up, right? That's the journey. Lots of bumps and bruises along the way. So what do you go to when you're in that moment of, why am I in this business? Why in the heck did I start this thing? Because there's going to be a lot of time where you're thinking like laying in bed for me, the still quiet moments of like, am I good enough? Do I have what it takes? Can I really push through this challenge? it comes back to the why for me. And I can get into that in another time, in another talk, but my why is a very personal talk. I would just encourage you guys to find your why. A hint for those of you that don't have your why, ask yourselves the question, why am I doing this? And then I want you to ask why 5 to 7 more times. It's not a perfect science. Why am I doing this? Well, because I want to create generational wealth. Why? Why do you want to create generational wealth? Well, because it'll set my family up for success. Well, why is that important to you? And get down to whatever it is that truly resonates in your heart that says, that's my why. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning, okay? Because in those moments where it's hard, you're going to have to come back to that why. And without that why, you can end up as sort of this rudderless ship. So I'm not going to get into all the details of how to do that, but the hint would be go 5 to 7 levels deep, okay? Next is to choose your vehicle. Everything that we've done has been residential BRRRR strategy. Why? Well, for me, it ties back to this hint, which is building on previous experience. I'm a systems and process guy. I'm a licensed general contractor. I like to build systems and processes. I like to build things with my hands. So the BRRRR strategy fit my experience. I also like other things, like I can use other people's money. I like the fact that there's opportunity for infinite returns, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever that is for you, I'm sort of just touching on these two tonight because those first two are more personal work, okay? I just encourage you to go and do that personal work. Determine whatever it is your vehicle is going to be. Some might be self-storage. Others might be mobile home parks. Is that appropriate to say it that way? Like, I want to be politically correct. Okay. Trailer parks. No, sorry. So whatever it is, I want you to pick the vehicle. Now, I want to get into now some of the sort of the meat of this for you guys. And I'm going to give you the opportunity, if you want to write the stuff down, you can, or if you want to contact me later, I'll give you all these slides. This framework is the framework that I've used to build every business. It's a 9-part framework, and out of this framework come the 23 questions, okay? So you start with the framework. It does not matter the business, you guys. Coca-Cola or John's Trash Service and every business in between has these critical functions to it. Not everybody in this room addresses all of these functions. Sometimes you start a business and you say, I'm going to do plumbing work. And so you start working on, you're fixing the toilet and your phone rings. And you realize you don't have any customer service because your hands are in the toilet, you can't answer the phone, right? Your business requires customer service, but you didn't think about it and have a plan for it. Fair enough? Sales, marketing. So the 7 critical functions are leadership, everything above the ground, okay? Leadership, marketing, sales, operations, accounting. The window says innovation, and the door says customer service. If you write this framework out at a minimum and say, how do I address these things in my business? You'll be well on your way to having a framework that you can run with. Below that, I think, is the most important part, talking about Thrasher, the foundations, the footings. It's what you believe in. My personal belief, I'm a steward. I don't own what I have. God owns everything. Okay, that's my belief. You get to pick your own. Then we have operating principles. This is the strength of our business. This is what our business is built on. So for us, we're strengths focused. We're a results only work environment. We exercise extreme ownership. We're systems based. We're others focused, and we bring the last 10%. That's how we guide ourselves. That's how we conduct ourselves when we do business. Okay? And all of that's below the surface. When you deal with us, you're not even going to really know that stuff exists. But it's what we stand on. It's who we are. Okay? If you have your beliefs and you have your guiding principles outlined, now you can build something. Very few people really understand what they are. They probably know, like, I know you got to tell the truth, right? I know you got to be nice to people. I know you got to do what you say you're going to do. Is that fair? Like, there's some basic things that we all kind of know. But if you're going to scale a business, how do you know that the people who you're scaling with are going to understand what that is and secondly, buy into it? If you don't write it down, how do you share it? You just yell at them, right? I told you to tell the truth. I told you to be on time, right? And you become this dictator, micromanager, screamer that nobody wants to be. But if you write it down and you share it with your team, now it becomes something that it can be resonant with an audience and share it with them, and they say, hey, he's my kind of people. Or you can say, no way, I don't want to deal with that. Regardless, it becomes a filter. And that's what you're going to need as you're growing, because you're going to grow beyond yourself real quick. Which, by the way, if there's some solopreneurs in here, you basically have 7 jobs. I don't know if that sinks in with any of you guys, but as a solopreneur, you have 7 jobs. And it's going to get even more complicated here in just a minute when we start asking the questions, okay? The good news is that if you have this framework in place, you can first understand it, put your name in the boxes that you own, and then start to find people to fill those other shoes. Find the who's that are not you, okay? So here's the 23 questions. It's very simple. The first column is the 7 functions, 7 critical functions of your business. Write them down. Your first column is who's going to do that job. And by who's going to do the job, it's who's going to own it. Okay, in our business, we see there's ownership and support, right? So who's going to own marketing? They might have some support people, but who's going to own it? Then it's sales. Just go down the list. Who's going to own it? Put the names in. Maybe every name in that box, or the name in every box is Mike. That's okay. That's okay. For now. If you want to scale, that's going to have to change, because you don't want, 24 jobs. You want to have fewer jobs. You want to distill this down to, what energizes and excites you and what it is that motivates you. But to start with, you got to dump it all out. The second column is going to be what is it that person does. Those are job descriptions. So easy. How many of you guys have done an org chart before? Okay, it's one of the most powerful tools that you can give yourself as a gift and to give to anybody you bring into your organization. Because now it's written down on a piece of paper to say, here's all of the roles, here's all the people that we need. I fill all these boxes, and I want to get out of these boxes. So anybody in this room that want to take this job from me, come on and take it. And if you know somebody that can do this job, and I'm blocking us, because most of the time, you guys, the entrepreneur is the one that impedes the growth. That might not seem right, because we're oftentimes the one that are out in front, right? Running and pushing. But we don't run and push in a way that's organized or structured. And nobody can come alongside us and help us. And so we end up becoming alone in this journey. We run through people because they don't get what we do. Does this resonate with anybody? Has anybody ever dealt with this before? Or is it just me? I'm the one that's made all these mistakes, right? So you got the org chart and the job description. You're well on your way. What I want to talk mostly about tonight is the how. And the how is what I'm going to call, in this room, we don't publicly call it the unfair advantage because it sounds a little crude. But in this room, I'm going to call it the unfair advantage because I want to have an unfair advantage over my competition. Does anybody in here want to have an unfair advantage? Something that says I stand out from everybody else at a level that's unfair. I'm gonna kick butt because nobody can compete with me. That's not ego, it's a plan. And I'm going to give you guys the plan on how you can do it for yourself, okay? And the 23 questions, by the way, just for those over there counting these boxes, because there's some accountants in here, I met one earlier. The 7 times 3 is 21, plus your operating principles and your beliefs. So there's 23 questions you got to ask and answer so that you have this framework. Okay, so I mentioned the how is the most important part. It's truly what sets us apart. Does anybody know what a USP is? What is it? Excellent, excellent. Unique selling proposition. What was, somebody else mentioned something different? We're all good with that definition? I'm good with it. I don't use a USP. I'll explain to you why. Another name for this might be a standard. I'm a big Matt Rule fan. And when he talks about standards, dude, I just get fired up. Because he's like, this is who we are. I don't care who we're playing. I care how we show up. And I love that. The standard and a USP are awesome. If you want to stop there, you're well on your way and you're going to be way ahead of your competition. If you want an unfair advantage, you have to change your perspective, okay? And this is where the power is. John Smith versus me. In other words, is it my perspective? Am I the one setting the standards? Am I the one determining what sets us apart? Or is John Smith? Well, who the heck is John Smith? And why is he part of this conversation? Nobody cares about John Smith. Well, here's a little saying, one of my favorites. Oops. Now my computer's not working. Has anybody heard this saying before? If you want to know why John Smith buys what John Smith buys, you need to see the world through John Smith's eyes. Is that a new saying for anybody in here? Brand new? This saying is absolute gold. The reason it's gold, I didn't come up with it. By the way, nothing I'm sharing with you guys is original content. This is all borrowed stuff. But I'm a collector of ideas, and when I see an idea that resonates with me, I run with it. John Smith is whoever's trading their hard-earned money with you for whatever product and service that you're offering. So who's your John Smith? If I want to know why John Smith is going to trade his hard-earned money to buy my product, I need to know what's in John Smith's head. That's the difference between creating an unfair advantage and a USP. A USP says, I'm going to answer the phone on the first ring. I'm going to have a receptionist that's there from 8 to 5, and everybody else has, just at noon. And I'm going to come up with this list of things that set me apart, right? Or I'm going to create a standard, like, here's the things that we're going to do. Those are great. The difference is if you go to what John Smith's seeing, now your perspective changes. Well, how do you get to John Smith's perspective? The question that I want to have you guys think about, and this is maybe going to feel a little uncomfortable, okay? I want you guys to be thinking about not just your customer. I want you to ask yourself the question, what do I want my customer to feel? Why does it matter what they feel? People buy with emotion. That's great. What else? Why does it matter what John Smith feels? Have you ever heard this saying? I'm sorry, go ahead, please. I'm sorry. It's what's important to him. That's excellent. They want to be heard. Excellent. You guys are on it. It could be different than your idea. Brilliant. They could experience buyer's remorse if you're not paying attention to what they're wanting, right? Excellent. What is their why? What's driving them? This is a millimeter shift, you guys, in thinking from I'm going to change things so that I stand out and I'm unique. And I want to change to have a standard to I want to know what the heck John Smith wants. How hard would it be to deliver to John Smith what he wants if he told you what he wanted? How hard would that be? John Smith says, I want cherry Kool-Aid. How hard would it be to deliver him cherry Kool-Aid? Pretty easy. Well, why aren't we asking John Smith? So what do I want John Smith to feel? All of the things you said, heard, understood. For me, I want John Smith to feel foolish. That feels a little uncomfortable. Why do I want my customer to feel foolish? Well, here's the catch. I want him to feel foolish for considering doing business with anyone else, regardless of the price. When John Smith comes to me, I want him to say, I don't care what Mike's charging. I don't care what it costs to do business with Mike. Because Mike gets me, he understands me, and he's delivering for me what I want. If you can do that, does that set you apart in John Smith's mind? How is that different than a standard? How is that different than a USP? Sort of a rhetorical question by now, but you guys getting this? Can I get an amen? I'm not preaching too much, am I? So how do you do this? This is really the secret sauce, you guys. And again, this is not me. How about the blue ocean strategy? Anybody read that book? Anybody in this room that owns a business, that is an absolute must read, because it helps you get in the head of John Smith. If you want to have a unique selling proposition on steroids, which you can then call an unfair advantage, which I don't recommend you publish, like I don't market that. I'll show you exactly how we market it here in a minute. But if you want to ramp up your differentiation, talk to John Smith. How do we make him feel foolish for considering anyone else regardless of price? Well, let's go talk to John. There's really simple questions to ask John. John, what do you love about your current process? What is it that you hate about the process? What pain points are you feeling? And John, if you had a magic wand and you could create the perfect process, what would it look like? Okay? This is where ERIC comes in. It's an acronym for eliminate, reduce, increase, and create. That all came from the Blue Ocean strategy. And the questions, the right side, that's all out of Blue Ocean. Excellent book. What must be eliminated, which can also make the customer's lives easier? What are the significant factors that need to be improved within the market? What are we going to reduce? What are the results of competing with other companies, and what can be reduced? And what can be created, something new? If you take the time and go through this exercise, you guys, and you ask your John Smith, what does he love? What does he hate? What pain is he feeling? And if you had the magic wand, you can then start to craft the things that you want to eliminate, increase, reduce, or create. Does that make sense? If you craft that, and it's with John Smith's voice in mind, how likely are you to deliver something that's different in John Smith's eyes? Pretty good odds, right? So this is a small shift from, I have an idea of how I want to make this business great. I'm the smartest guy on the planet. I know how to run a business. I built 7 of them. I can do this. I don't need to talk to John. I've talked to John before. I got this. To saying, I'm going to humbly submit to the fact that I don't know everything, and John Smith does, because he's the golden rule. The man with the gold makes the rules, right? John Smith has the money. I want to know what's in his head. I want to know what's in his heart. I want to know what's driving this guy to make a buying decision. And then I want to craft my offering to be custom tailored to what it is that he's looking for. And if I can do that, is it possible that I can have John Smith feel foolish for considering someone else, regardless of price? Has anybody in here ever done business with somebody that they say, that's my person? Raise your hand if you felt that. Is it because of what they've done? Is it because of what they've said? Or is it because of what they've made you feel? Any idea? What they make you feel. Why is that? Why isn't it because they have a slick pitch? Connection, relationship, trust. Why isn't it because they've got a better product? Does that really, let's just be honest with ourselves, you guys. Like that, yes, it matters. Price does matter. Quality of product does matter. But what matters more than anything else, what trumps both of those, is an understanding of your customer at a level that they say, Mike gets me. And if you can get your customer to say, Mike gets me, they're going to say, Mike's your guy. Mike's my guy. And I'm not going to sell my property to anybody else until I've talked to Mike. I'm not going to invest my money in any other syndication until I've talked to Mike. I'm not going to send a deal that I have a pocket listing to anyone else until I've at least had Mike say no. That's what we're striving for, okay? And this framework, you guys, you apply it to your business, you're going to get a similar result, okay? There's a risk. You're going to have to scale. You're going to end up building a big business because these are all tools that I've used multiple times to scale and scale quickly. So what I call our unfair advantage at our company is called Freed by Real Estate. I call this the Freed by Real Estate way. And there's 3 John Smiths in my world. I have a broker who is the connection to the seller. I have a seller who's the guy that's going to decide who's going to win the deal. And I have investors who are giving me their capital to invest in a deal. And so I go to all three of those and I ask the question, what do you love, what do you hate, what's your magic wand? And what we came up with was, this is our unfair advantage, which is the free by real estate way. So I go to a broker and say, I'm going to pay you guaranteed commission. I'm going to allow you to invest in a deal alongside us. And I'm going to train you exactly on what our buy box is. So when you bring us a deal, there's no mystery about whether or not this deal fits for us. How does that and why would that matter? Why does that matter? How many times are brokers marginalized, put into this box of it's purely a transaction, reduced to you don't bring any value? And you know what that does in them? It says, I'm concerned about getting paid. I'm concerned about getting cut out. Have you guys ever heard of that, any of this before? Like there's a real fear there. And what they do is instead of being collaborative, instead of wanting to work with you, they try to control the situation because they're scared. They don't trust you. And they think, you're not talking to my seller, everything's got to go through me. They become a control freak because they're trying to protect themselves. But if I can say, listen, take the money off the table, I'll guarantee that you get paid. I'm going to give you the exact buy box and exactly the asset class I'm looking for. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to get off this hamster wheel of just chasing commission, because if you like the deal as much as I do, I'm going to allow you to invest in it with me. That changes the relationship that I have with that broker. Is that fair? Now we go to the sellers. I won't buy a deal unless I can talk directly to the seller, which sometimes brokers hate. But if I built that trust relationship with the broker and they understand who we are and what we're about, they appreciate the collaborative approach. They appreciate, and by the way, when you're buying a large asset, what makes a large, for a value-add investor, somebody who's a BRRRR investor, what kind of assets am I looking for? Any ideas? So what does that mean? Yes, but what is a value-add asset? Something that needs work, physically. What else? What constitutes a value-add? Tenant problems, right? So if you're buying an asset that's got multiple tenants, odds are there's a staff that have been running this, right? There's probably property management, there's probably maintenance, there's probably somebody doing bookkeeping and accounting. And if I'm gonna take investor money and I'm gonna put it into a deal, I darn well better know exactly what that asset is and how I'm gonna add value to it. So if I rely on a broker only who's naturally inclined to be scared and protective because it's a transactional space, and I say, I'm going to trust you to get this done, how do I in good faith go to my investors and say, I have vetted this deal fully, I know exactly how to raise the value of this property because I understand the tenant issues, I haven't talked to the tenants, I understand the management issue, I haven't talked to the management, I understand the seller's motivation, I haven't talked to the seller. So we take a different approach, and that's what makes sellers feel foolish for considering selling to somebody else until they've talked to us. And the last is our investors. I'm a general contractor, as I mentioned. We have our own property management. Why does that matter? Well, if I'm investing in a deal and I own the construction company, who's the guy who's pouring the concrete on site? Who's the guy who's putting the roof on it? Who's the guy who's doing the bath and kitchen remodel? The guy that owns the property. Who cares more than an owner? Right? So I can go to an investor and say, I own the property and I own the construction company. I'm going to be NOI obsessed. I'm making sure that every dollar that goes into this place is going to get me a return. I'm going to make sure that the quality of the repair is done. I'm going to make sure that it's done on time. I'm not going to sub it out and trust another guy to go do this. Same with property management. The biggest challenge in some of these larger assets is the tenant base is not cared for to our standard. And that's the biggest opportunity for us to improve it. There's no way in heck that I'm going to sub that out to somebody who's no disrespect to the third-party managers. we make all the same mistakes you guys do. The difference is that I also own it. I also own the property. So when there's a huge value add and there's a bunch of vacancy and there's a bunch of headaches along the way, I have more staying power to ride that problem through to the end because I get the upside. And if you have a bunch of vacancy as a property manager and you're paid on collected rents, your pay just gets dropped every time I have a vacancy. You don't want to manage through a big rehab. So again, this is add all of these 9 little things up to those 3 audiences, and that becomes what we call our unfair advantage. And it's with the goal, and we're always listening, it's not perfect, it's a work in progress, okay? But with the goal of saying, I want these 3 audiences to feel foolish for considering working with somebody else regardless of price. And with the framework that I've showed you guys and the questions that I've led you through, you can do that for your own business. Make sense? Okay, so the question I would ask you guys is, how can I help? Our goal, the reason we exist as Freed by Real Estate is twofold. One is to create generational wealth, and the second is to maintain family harmony. You heard Ted mention that I have 12 family members that work full-time in the business. We're all invested in these deals. Why do I do that? Working with family is hard. It's the highest standard of responsibility I have as a father, to be, not just a good businessman, but to shepherd my children well in the process. And so I have to take so much extra care in teaching them how to do what they do and the why behind it. Because if I don't, then it's going to risk our relationship, and Thanksgiving is going to be awkward, right? And I don't want that. Secondly, is they're going to get all this pile of stuff at some point when I'm gone. I'm not going to be here much longer. I hope for a long time, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm halfway there, okay? Or more. And so there will be a legacy that I leave. Legacy is not optional. So I want to intentionally bring my family into the business so that they can learn and understand exactly what it is they're inheriting, but also how to then take what they get and not allow it to tear the family apart, become entitled brats, trust fund babies, but that they have worked hard to help build it so that they can continue to have it grow. Does that make sense? And so for us, our passion is to help other families do the same. Do we accept investments from other people who are, single individuals? Of course we do. But our heart, our passion, our drive is to help families do what we're doing, to set up this generational wealth and to teach their children how to be good stewards of it. So when their transition happens, there's this harmony that can continue on. We want to fight this 3 generations or shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. That's a real thing, you guys. First generation buys it, second generation builds it, third generation sells it. What's the 4th generation do? Buys it, starts over. Because the 3rd generation sold it. The grandkids say, I don't want anything to do with that. That's the biggest tragedy that I think in our business that I'm trying to right is so many of the assets we buy, you guys, the owners have family. And we ask 100% of these guys, 100%, is there somebody in your family that could be blessed by owning this asset? And when they say no, it's heartbreaking to me. I'm not saying everybody should keep assets forever, but there's a lot of them that can and should and don't. And so we're trying to break that cycle. So for any of the things that you see up here, if any of that resonates with you, we have a weekly happy hour. We have a family meetup. We've got some coaching and a mastermind and those sorts of things. We'd love to have you guys participate any way we can, or any way you can. You can invest alongside us. We have a hard money lending business. You can borrow money from us. Whatever it is that helps you facilitate what it is you're trying to do, we'd love to help. So I'll open it up to you guys. I've been blabbering a lot, so questions or comments, thoughts?
Oh, somebody's got some questions out here, like working with family, something about the steps. Raise your hand, I'll bring the mic over to you.
Hi, thank you for coming tonight and sharing your knowledge with us. My name is Rachel Herman. My question is not really about your presentation, but you gave so many ideas for books to list or books to read. And I am just gathering this huge list from other RIAs that I've been to. How do you get through all these books? There's so much information out there. I mean, I feel like I could be reading 24 hours a day. How do you kind of manage that?
That's a great question. So podcasts obviously are one of my favorites. Audible is one of my best friends. I listen to everything on 1.5 speed or two times speed. If I have a physical book, I will read the trick to reading a book is, in my view, read the first sentence and the last sentence of each paragraph, and you can read the whole book in 200 pages in an afternoon, and you'll get the Cliff's Notes version of it. And if there's something that resonates with you, you can always go back and pick it up. But I consume the content really trying to pick up the highlights, listening at a faster speed, or cheating and reading the first sentence and last sentence of each paragraph. But it's a great question.
1.5 times on Amazon.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that works out really well.
I walk into the office with my books playing and everybody looking at me like, how do you listen to that? I'm like, your brain it catches it. It just takes a second to get used to it. What else?
Okay, best advice to a newer investor. How do you simplify things? You've been in it for a year, but then also to get it to the next level.
I hate to oversimplify the answer to say start with the framework, but now I've got 10 businesses that I'm currently, most of them are holding companies, not just a couple of operating businesses, okay? There's a difference between an operating business and a holding company in terms of work. But an operating business, or either one, doesn't matter, but for an operating business in particular, to sit down and just write out this framework and to just be aware that there's every business has 7 different roles, and underneath each of those roles there's probably other jobs, and to just get it laid out in front of you, and I tend to put my name in every box when I start, and then systematically count the little wins of I found somebody to replace me in this, and that who could be a technology, the who could be an outsourced third party, the who could be an employee. It doesn't matter. But the simplification to me is to first get everything out on a piece of paper and then to start systematically working through. The interesting thing about that question is it's a both and answer, right? It simplifies, but then it also empowers you to scale because now you've got everything laid out. Most people, a good friend of mine, business partner, Alex, is in the crowd. He's a former Marine, a captain in the Marines, great guy. And he always says, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And I like that. So to start with, we got to go slower, which I hate. Please.
So a newer investor, there are costs involved with hiring.
Absolutely.
So the question is there's a fear of you pay X amount for your services to do what you need to do. So what would you tell newer investors? Get a line of credit? Like, how do you jump that hurdle where it's going to work? I'd rather go to the casinos and play poker and maybe get my chances.
Right.
So
yeah. So one of the maybe it's a twisted way that I look at it, but one of the ways I look at it is, let's say I've laid everything out in the framework and I've identified the jobs that I just don't want to do, and I'm looking for somebody to do that. Yes, let's say they need $60,000 a year. Okay, I'm not spending $60,000 to get this person. I'm going to give them 1 month to prove themselves. So I'm spending 1/12 of $60,000. And that's the emotional decision that I'm making. So I try to make the decisions, I try to chunk those decisions into a more realistic, shorter time frame that are less expensive and less risky. It's still money. And if you don't have any capital, I wouldn't be starting a business because it takes some capital. It does. And if you can reach into a line of credit or you have access to savings, maybe, right? I'm not going to give you advice on how much to take and how big to go because I don't know your business. But if it's going to be investing in somebody else, I tend to chunk it into, it's a 1 month hire. And if they work out, I'm going to, and by working out, it's they've paid for themselves and made me money. I won't hire somebody just to take a job off my plate, especially early on. It's got to be revenue producing. And I'll do the menial crap jobs until I can afford overhead, which is actually an important point. So you only want to hire early on in a business, you're only going to want to hire people who are producing, because adding overhead just adds stress. But if you hire a salesperson who can go out and sell something and they get paid when they sell, then there's no cost associated with that person unless there's a sale associated with it. That's called a cost of goods sold. I don't want to get into the weeds on it, but anything you can keep above the line and have as a cost of goods sold early on, that's better. Later you'll have overhead that you can't get away from. But you start with those baby steps. We can talk offline too, because there's more to it, but what else?
Yeah, I got a quick question for you. Let's talk about a little bit about the fun side of what you've been doing lately. Let's talk about the book, how that came to fruition. How did you write a book with Chris Voss? How did this TV show go? I mean, like, give us a little details on all this.
Yeah, so I am a super consumer of books and different things. And Chris Voss, I picked up his book, Never Split the Difference. I don't know when it was, right when it came out. Somebody posted on Facebook and said, here's my new favorite book. And I just ordered it because it was a book on negotiation. And I'm always trying to sharpen the sword and get better at what I do. And the paradigm shift in me was so profound that I just started to consume all of the content, because it was not, I had been trained in negotiations on the getting to yes strategy, which is a Harvard professor-led project. And I still like a lot of the things that book teaches, but Chris Voss's book completely flips that on its head. And it's a very different approach, and it really clicked with me. So I started to consume all the content. I've watched every clip on YouTube that exists of Chris, just so I could start practicing it. Signed up for newsletter, helped one of Alex's acquaintances get trained in the Never Split the Difference training. So they knew I was a heavy consumer, and I get an email one day from an agent that's representing Chris and says, hey, he's writing a book. Would you have any interest in submitting a story? Which of course I said yes. And I had no, like, it was more just, I don't know, catharsis maybe, just to get it out and to say thank you and to appreciate what he did. And it turned out that they said, hey, we like what you submitted. I ended up getting a ghostwriter and an editor that they provided. And when I submitted the story, they liked it, so they published it in the book. I'm one of 20 or so other authors, so it's really just a way for me to give back and to share a few stories about how tactical empathy, which sounds utilitarian, has really served me well, and that's what led to the book. And out of that then was, hey, he's doing a TV show called That's Right, and asked if I'd be interviewed on the show, and I was a few weeks ago. So sort of just serendipitous, I guess.
Where can we see this if we want to watch that show?
I don't even know yet, to be honest. I think it's an Amazon show. I don't know. I haven't been given the details. We just filmed it a couple weeks ago. So when I have those details, I'll share them.
Yeah. So a lot of the questions that are coming up are actually bringing up questions for me. But my main one was, I own a lawn and landscape business in Omaha, and I've got a few friends in real estate. And I'm looking to, in my off seasons when we're either pushing snow or pushing revenue for the following year, just trying to kind of expand what I'm doing in the winter. And I'm a guy who likes to put all my eggs in one basket, whether it's my business or a business that I'm starting up or collaborating with somebody on. So my question is if you talked about finding your destination, is there a way to do that besides just trial and error? Because I mean, I've seen that a lot in my business, and I've learned from a lot of mentors in my business. But I'm just curious, like, what's an easier route to finding your destination than trial and error?
Anybody want to take this?
Wait, you need a mic.
So he and his business partner, how old were you when you started your business?
15, but we started our LLC in 2021.
And
15, but we started our LLC in 2021 when we were 18.
Right. So he's like a Riley Eccles, a young 17-year-old that flips houses. Right. So these guys they didn't go to college because they realized investing was like they're making it. Mm-hmm. And so he's at the point of what's next.
Right.
And it's super cool to see. Like they do lawn and landscaping and they're 21, 19, and they are flourishing. So it's super cool.
It's incredible.
Right.
It's
incredible. It's
yeah.
Props to that question is what's next?
Yeah.
I know you had said you need capital to start a business, and I feel like lawn and landscape may be one of the exceptions, just because I'm at a point now where I have the capital to get into something else like real estate. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm just curious to learn more on just the entire subject. And so that's why I came out tonight.
Yeah, for sure. There was a gentleman that raised his hand. I'm curious if he had a thought to share that would be additive.
Hold up. I'm running as fast as I can.
So like I'm as old as you are young. I've probably got fewer years left than you were when you started your landscape business. But for me, it's thinking back, it's passion. I mean, you got to get up and you got to do something every day. So think about what you're passionate about, what you enjoy doing, because you're going to be doing it for a long time. Absolutely. And one of the guys who had a great career that I admire the most was my wife's father. And he said he got up every day and he did what he loved. They happened to pay him for it, but he got up and he did what he loved. So think about that when you're thinking about where to spend your capital and what to do. Obviously, you're an entrepreneur. So like the world is your oyster at this point.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
I would echo that for sure. I think the thought that comes to my head is maybe counter to what you're hoping to hear, because so many of us entrepreneurs are eager to start the next thing. And I suffer from the same affliction. So it's a kindred spirit that's sharing this with you. Right. And it sort of goes against this cliche of to create wealth, you have to diversify. Where I agree with that, I think it's a timing issue. Where most of the very successful people that I know don't start by diversifying. They start by going deep in one area and just owning it so that all of their clients feel foolish for considering anyone else. Once you own that space, you're going to have so much cash that you're going to not know what to do with it. And if you're at a place where you have so much cash you don't know what to do with, then you can start to think about diversifying and trying something else. If you don't, my advice would be don't do anything else. Right. Say no, because that's one of the most powerful words. It's hard to say. But if you can say it and say, I'm going to go deeper and I'm going to max this out, it will create a foundation or a platform that will be very hard to shake. What most entrepreneurs struggle with is they'll start something new, they'll get it going and spin this plate, and they'll realize, oh crap, this plate's about ready to crash. And so they put at risk that which has got them to that point instead of really stabilizing it first. So I don't want to discourage you. Right. I just would think to me, it's more of a timing thing.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
I actually want to add to that. I would consider having you ask yourself what energizes and excites you, to really distill down on what you're really good at. And once you're there, you find your purpose on where you're going next. I would recommend, and I think in one of the slides where Mike had, I don't remember the quote, but just think about who do you want to take that advice from, and who do you want to maybe have somebody take you under your wing to go to the next step.
That's great. Yeah, because we're all at different levels, right? I think what you're saying, honey, is if there's somebody that you aspire to be like, that might be a good next step. Exactly. If it's absolutely, absolutely, all of us, it's sometimes uncomfortable, but all of us should put ourselves in a room where everyone else in the room is smarter than us, and we can say, okay, toss me a rope and let me climb a little bit, right? Because that's what we all are trying to do, instead of, settling into a groove.
First of all, for him, we're all looking for contractors. So I would throw your cards on the tables. I don't know who you are, never met you, but if your card's on the table, I'm going to pick it up and I'll remember that later. So
I got his number, Jason.
Deep,
I used him.
Yeah, if you want to dive deep into it, this is where it's at. So
Thank you for that.
You talked about real estate agents and giving them parameters. Do you work with more than one or one specific? How do you work that, Fred?
Yeah, good question. So we have two programs that we offer agents. One is on the multifamily side, we call it the Evergreen Money Tree, which is for brokers. And that's for any broker that fits the criteria and wants to join that program. On the single family side, we have the Perfect Buyer program, and we work with multiple agents on that as well. So it's not one, it's here's who we are and what we're about. Okay. And if it resonates with you, it'll attract the people that we want. And I'll be honest with you, if there's 20 people that it resonates with, there's probably 2 that are doing deals with us, and the rest, right, get busy or have other priorities, which is fine.
Yep. But
we haven't picked anyone exclusively.
Okay. And then you say you mostly do BRRRRs. How's that been the last year and a half?
On the single family side, almost non-existent. Okay. We haven't bought a single family. Well, we just started to buy some again, but for a couple of years, in 19 and 20, and before we started to hold 18, we were buying 40 and 50 single families a year. Right. And now it's, I don't know, Luke, how many have we bought? 2 this year? I don't know. There just aren't. For us, if it's going to be we aren't flipping, so we're buying and holding. Right. And for us, we have to have debt service coverage. We have to have cash flow in order to keep it. Right. And so we're just not, with the interest rates being as high and the values being so high, we can't get the rents high enough. Yep. So we haven't bought very many. On the multifamily side, we feel like we're seeing this first domino tip, and we're starting to get some traction on buying some of the multifamily stuff, where just half a basis point down in rate was kind of baked into the rates that we saw a couple months ago. And so we've been leaning into those more. The sellers are maybe getting tired and saying this has to trade at some point. Right. And so they're a little more agreeable to negotiate, but there's no windfall of deals right now.
Do you see residential picking up in the near future?
Gosh, so I listen to so much different content, you guys, that there's so many competing voices. I don't know what to believe. In my own experience, I don't see, as constrained as we are on inventory, and how unaffordable prices are, combined with this lock-in effect, I don't see single family trading at the volume that it did until rates come down and people can say, okay, I can psychologically swallow 5 points instead of I'm locked at 2.5 or 3. Yeah. That's, to me, I think the biggest hindrance to that starting to trade. There's still distress. There's still challenges with people get in trouble. Mm-hmm. So on the distress side, there has been some forbearance and some things that the government has stepped in to try to prevent foreclosures and things. We're starting to see that break loose a little bit, but not near like it was 4 years ago. So the short answer is I hope it does, but I don't have any reason to believe why it will.
Right. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you think that wholesaling becoming legal has affected getting the good deals? Because a lot of us investors got a lot of our properties through wholesalers, and now we're really dependent on, either our own marketing or getting stuff, right off of the MLS. Was that an avenue for you guys?
It's interesting because I think the number of people wholesaling have declined. So the barrier got higher to entry, and the complexity was increased, and so just fewer people were doing it.
There'd be a point where you ask who are the wholesalers in the room, and there'd be 20 people in the room with their hands up, and they're like, and they would come up and like, I got this lead, and I got this lead. Now you're scared.
Yeah, yeah. We have wholesaled hundreds of properties over the years, and it was a core part of our business to build cash, but we haven't wholesaled a deal in years now.
Yeah, it's tough.
It is.
Any other questions? Oh, Dennis. Okay. And you feel free to go up there right behind him too.
Yeah. So, I was saying myself in there. I like all of your stuff was so good today. Just saying, I know everybody
Thank
learned a lot of stuff today. One of the things that really did resonate with me though is the family part. You built a business and it's only your family is involved. So I have two questions. How? And the second one is, did everybody have money at the beginning? And it was just like, hey, put all the money together. Because I would think that everybody started at some point, and it probably was that not everyone had capital to invest in it. Or I don't know how you structured it, but that's just my assumption.
Yeah, great question. So the first question is, how did the family get involved? I think it's totally by God's grace. It hasn't been without its challenges. I mean, my oldest son, Luke, was the first one to join the business. And it was after, he came to me when he was 19. He's at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln, and said, I'm done doing school. I want to join the business. And I was like, there's no way, dude. Like, you're not going to quit. And if you do come and work in the business, I'm going to have you do trash outs. You're going to do driving for dollars, the worst jobs I can give you, because I don't want you to quit. But I have to tell you, this Chris Voss deserves a lot of credit. I was just practicing and learning the Never Split the Difference tools, which are mirroring, labeling, summarizing, and some of those things. And it was a magical conversation, because it allowed me to express understanding to Luke, and he gave me a that's right moment. And it was from that point on we collaborated. I was able to set aside what I wanted and was wed to, and he was able to set aside what he was wed to, and we started to work together on how do we solve this. And he ended up, joining the family business. Obviously, he's been here 5 years, and or going on 5. I lose track of time, and I don't know what his balance sheet looks like, but he's got 6 figures in passive income and has no college debt. So as a father, how else do you? I mean, it's a big deal. That's Luke.
Luke, do you want to say anything to that?
That's right.
So the once Luke jumped in, then his older sister and her husband, and then now Paul, his younger brother, and Lucy's dad and sister and brother-in-law, and there's several people that just have, as we've grown, we've really just tried to, I don't know, just be humble and be good stewards, and to come alongside and say, hey, if you're trying to improve your financial situation, you're not going to be able to do it working for somebody else. Like, you can make money, but you can't create wealth. And if you want to set your family up, you've got to find a way to buy assets. You've got to find a way to invest. And so the second question is the money. We use private lending. And that is the biggest blessing to our family, is we're buying these assets without our own money. And we were giving returns to friends and family for the cash to buy and the cash to refi or rehab. And then we'd refi out of it, recycle that money, and we could turn $150,000 3 or 4 times a year. And every time we'd do a refi, we were refreshing that and going to the next deal. So we were using other people's money the whole time. The kids didn't have any money. Now, Luke's in a much different spot, but it was through the use of other people's money. And that's possible for all of you guys. You all know somebody that has capital and they're looking for a return. Now that the rates have dropped, the CDs and interest-bearing accounts at the bank are less desirable. Treasuries are less desirable. The stock market is still, a possibility, but more volatile. And so people are looking for a safe place to invest. And if it's tied to real estate, it's pretty secure. So if you have questions about private lending, we can certainly help you with that. Sorry to make you wait.
You're good. So you have like 400, you said, that you're holding just between you and the family, and then 1,000, you said, or 1,000 plus with investors. I've heard Grant Cardone offer some advice. I don't know how I feel about it. I figure you'd probably be a good person to ask. For someone starting new, maybe they're looking to get into multifamily or something like that. How do you feel about starting with investors and going in with experienced investors and using that as a method to learn, as opposed to trying to go in by yourself, do things that way?
Yeah, I think, excuse me, that's a great question. It comes down to your appetite for work. Because if you have ability to contribute time and effort, then going on your own isn't necessarily bad. If you don't have the time or the will to do that, riding the coattails of somebody who is successful is definitely the way to go. The trade-off is, if you go with an investor or you go with a syndicator, somebody you're investing with, you have to have capital.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have capital, you have to be able to go find capital. So, or find a deal. There are ways to get involved. You could be a bird dog and source a deal, or you could source capital and participate in the deal that way without money, but you got to bring value. If you're going to do it on your own, then you can use private lending. You don't need the money. You can use other people's money. But you got to be able to source deals, and you got to be able to perform on whatever the business plan is. So if it's going to be value add, meaning you're buying below market and forcing appreciation, you better know how to do rehab, and you better know how to sell it or manage it when it's a rental. So it's sort of, what is your skill set and what is your past experience lend itself to, and that's the route I would go.
Thank you. I appreciate the answer. That's good.
You bet.
We just don't get a lot of clapping after people ask questions. It's kind of fun. Any other questions? Take the mic, get at least one or two good ones left in the room here. No? Man, kicked ass today. It was awesome. My key word that I misunderstood you say tonight was framework, kind of like for framework.
Kramer.
This is the framework. Okay, so how's it going to work tonight with the book signings before I finish up?
So I've got 25 books, and it'll just be first come, first serve, I guess. Whoever wants to come over, I'll sign your book. Again, my ask is the $20 that you would have sent to Amazon, gift it to somebody that's in need or a passion that you have. Maybe pay for somebody's coffee in the line behind you tomorrow or something.
So maybe, are you on social media?
I am. Did you guys get my information? I put my cell phone and my email.
We can put it back up there. How about this? When they, as a thank you for the book, we ask them to take a picture of how they're giving back and then tag you on your social media account.
I would love that.
Can we do that?
That'd be great.
That way he knows, and it'll make you feel good.
That would be nice. I don't need to know it, but it would feel good if you did.
Can you tell us what role your wife plays in the business? Because she knew all the numbers.
Yeah.
Because I know what my wife does in my business. So
she is what Alex would call the queen of the Midwest. She's the 10-pound brain in the office. She's worked for 10 years in corporate, in HR, and back office, and she's got an MBA. So she's our CFO, and she makes sure that all the money that we bring in gets paid out to all the right people, and that we have money left to pay the bills, and use wisely. Yeah. So she is all of the numbers on the backside.
Awesome.
And keeps everybody together for sure.
Awesome. I love hearing about the family. I love hearing about everything you're doing. And if you want to know more about his backstory, besides what's on the book, definitely listen to we had a 2-hour podcast, episode 128, I believe it was, on RIA Radio. Take a listen, and if you enjoy it, share it with somebody else that would enjoy it, because we really dug deep into you, and that was a fun interview.
I sure enjoyed it.
Give him a big round of applause. Appreciate it. It's awesome. Okay, just to kind of wrap up, nice part is I did some of this, but there is a book giveaway that's going to happen in the back. JM Real Estate Capital brings us a book every time. If you want to get in that drawing, drop your card in there. We'll do it here in about 2 minutes. Or you can just write your name on a card. Or if you want Ram to come around, raise your hand up so he can see it. He'll come around with the bucket and grab the card too. So that way he can get your information there. But open mic, is there anything that you guys are looking for in your business? A shout out you want to give to another member? Anything that this group can do to help you out or your business grow? We already know we have somebody looking to do some landscaping here. I see Hal getting up. He's doing the slow trot.
All right, guys.
You
most
love,
you
you
know,
love being on the mic, Hal.
Yeah. Most of you know I've been a flipper for several years. Flipping's not really doing the numbers I like, so I've transitioned to contracting. Lately, I've been working on a high-end renovation. Going to be wrapping it up probably in about 30 days or so. The owners have allowed me to hold an open house for anybody that's interested in seeing what a higher-end renovation looks like, and even sharing some of the numbers and the costs of the products. If anybody's interested, keep an eye out. Working with Mo, she's helping me put together a digital flyer that I'll share on the RIA pages. Thanks.
Hal's one of the trustworthy ones, so he'll take good care of you. So thank you, Hal. Appreciate it, man. Any other? Yeah, Mo.
Hi, I'm Mo Albers with Realty One Group Sterling. How are you? Do I know you? Real quick, I just want to give a shout out to Hal with City Lights. Thank you very much for your high-end renovation. You've been at it, I think, about a year now. That's always part of it, right? The permits and so on. So yeah, we're gonna conduct an open house and celebrate Hal and also the other contractors that he has recruited. One of the other ones is Johnny Albers Flooring. So thank you very much for the 75 steps. I think that's right, or close to it. I just quickly wanted to mention, if you're an investor and you're looking for real estate, I've got everything from $80,000 on up to $1.75 million available on the market. Townhomes, multifamilies, single families, Airbnbs. So please come see me. And then if I can, real quick, say hi to Andrew McElmeal. I was hoping he might come up and say a little bit about himself.
No pressure, no pressure.
No pressure. So Andrew is an investor and also a real estate attorney and a great friend.
We all need a real estate attorney in our lives.
Yes, you definitely do. Hello, my name is Andrew McMill. By day, I am a real estate attorney, specifically a real estate litigation attorney. So I do everything from the most basic eviction all the way up into the multi-million-dollar construction disputes, development disputes all throughout Nebraska. My firm is also national, so if you have issues over in Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, Texas, California, Florida, I can get you an attorney to get that issue handled. So please do reach out to me if you want to go sue somebody or you are getting sued. Come and talk to me. Thank you.
If any of you guys have ever seen my my Instagram post where I got to do my first eviction and I was all excited and I'm taking pictures in court and getting in trouble by the bailiffs, Andrew was doing that eviction for me and we won. Bree, go ahead.
Hello. My name is Brianna Knott, and I am a property manager alongside Liz Otto at Peterson Bros Realty. We are a third-party full-service management company, and we are a sponsor of the Omaha RIA. We are offering 25% off of management services until the end of the year. I've sprinkled some of our business cards around the table, so feel free to pick one of those up. Just a little bit about us. Liz Otto is the owner of Peterson Bros Realty. So it is female owned, and she has been in the real estate industry for well, basically her whole life because her dad was an investor, but she really got into it about 12 years ago. She's very knowledgeable about maintenance issues as well as the management side. And we are both investors as well, so we know the importance of good property management. I myself have been in the property management industry for about 7 years. And if you have any questions, come up and see me after. That's
Awesome.
it.
And thanks for being a sponsor of the group. Appreciate it very much. Last chance. Anybody else? Okay, so just want to do a thank you to Albert's Flooring for being our event sponsor tonight. Thank you to JM Real Estate for being our drink sponsor tonight. Take advantage of those drinks. We'll be down the hallway after the book signing. Just tell them that you're putting a tab on JM Real Estate, and they'll take care of it. It's going to be beers and draws. If there's some left over after first round and we don't get too crazy, maybe there's a second round. We'll see. And with that, best thing you guys can do for us is share our podcast, give Omaha RIA a Google review or whatever your favorite format is. That means the world to us to help us keep growing. I appreciate you guys so much. If I can be a resource for you guys, please let me know. And we're going to finish up with a drawing in the back. Ram, you want to pull a card out? The bald Vanna White. Okay, Ram, I'm going to bring it up here, and we'll do it up here, man. One thing we ask with the books is if you read it, love it, you got something out of it, please take the time to put your card inside there, return it, and we'll give it away again, and we'll give you a shout out for returning it. And the card, oh, yep. Give it a shake. Shake your booty. Get it. You may hold it, you do it. The winner is?
Rachel Herman.
Rachel Herman, come on down. Oh, no, that's very kind. You could just redonate it back and then you would have felt double good. Okay. Just one shot.
Joe Hendricks.
Joe Hendricks, right next to you. Okay, thank you guys, appreciate it. If you loved tonight's episode, it will be on our YouTube channel, RIA Radio. Have a great night, and we hope to see you over here at the book signing or drinks down the hallway. Crank the music, DJ.